The Coldest Thing. I used to think my mother was the strongest woman I'd ever known. That's the story I told everyone. When I was 7, my father left. No warning, no goodbye, just an empty closet and a note on the kitchen counter that my mom folded up and never let me read. She raised me alone after that, worked double shifts at a clinic, came home smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion, still managed to sit with me at the kitchen table while I did homework. I never heard her cry, not once. When I was 12, I asked her about it. How do you just keep going? She looked at me for a long moment and said, "Because you're watching." I wrote that down in a notebook. I still have it somewhere. She remarried when I was 15, a quiet man named Gerald who made decent coffee and never raised his voice. I didn't love him, but I didn't hate him either. He made her laugh at dinner sometimes. That felt like enough. What I didn't know was that she'd told him everything about me. Not the good things, the real things. My anxiety, my grade-slipping junior year, the one time I came home drunk and she covered for me with my grandparents. The therapist I'd seen for 8 months who she'd promised would stay private. I found out the way you always find out things you weren't supposed to know. A family dinner, his sister visiting from out of state, a bottle of wine into the evening, and Gerald's sister looked at me with this soft, practiced sympathy and said, "Your mom told us about your rough patch. We went through something similar with our youngest. You're not alone." I smiled. I said thank you. I excused myself to use the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the tub for 11 minutes. I counted them. When I came back out, I watched my mother laugh at something Gerald said. And I thought, she told him everything. And he told his whole family. And they all sat across from me tonight already knowing. I didn't say anything that night. Or the next week. But I started paying attention differently. The way she'd mention things to Gerald that I'd told her in what I thought were private moments. The way his expressions sometimes arrived a half-second too early, like he'd already been briefed. Small things, the kind you can't prove but can't unfeel. A few months later, I was helping her reorganize the hall closet. Old boxes, old photos. I found a card I didn't recognize. Inside, in her handwriting, was a letter she'd written to my father. Recent. The postmark was from 2 years ago. It wasn't angry. That's what got me. It was warm. Updating him on my life like a newsletter. My school, my interests. A photo tucked inside. He'd never once reached out to me, and she had been keeping him informed anyway, without asking me, without telling me. I stood there in the hallway holding this card for a long time. I thought about every conversation we'd ever had about him. The way she'd say he made his choice with this quiet finality that I'd always read as protective. I thought she was building a wall between me, and that hurt. I didn't know she'd left a door open on her side. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to understand it first. Turn it over. Look at it from every angle. The way you do when something doesn't make sense and you're hoping it eventually will. It didn't. So one evening I sat across from her at the kitchen table. Same table where she used to help me with homework. And I told her what I'd found. All of it. Gerald's family knowing things they shouldn't. The letter. The photo. She didn't deny any of it. She said she thought she was protecting me by managing the information around me, controlling the version of me that existed in other people's minds. She said she'd told Gerald because she wanted him to understand me. She said she'd written to my father because she thought someday I'd want a relationship with him, and she was laying the groundwork. She said all of this like it was reasonable, like it was love. I looked at her for a long time before I said anything. You made decisions about my story without ever asking if I wanted those people in it. She got quiet. Then she said she was sorry. And I believe she meant it, but that's not the part I think about most. The part that stayed with me was something she said near the end of the conversation, almost under her breath, more to herself than to me. I just didn't think you could handle the truth of any of it. Not malicious, not cruel, just honest. And somehow that was the coldest part. Not the betrayal, but the belief underneath it. That after everything, after all those years of watching her, writing down her words, trying to become someone she could be proud of, she never fully believed I was strong enough. The woman who raised me alone, who never let me see her cry, because I was watching, didn't think I could handle it. I've never stopped loving her. I want to be clear about that. But some nights, I still think about that sentence. And I wonder how many other things she decided I couldn't handle, and just quietly handled for me. Without asking. Without telling me.